Hello and welcome to TLDR with Two Nerds in a Truck. We're talking about Arrowhead Provincial Park today for winter camping.
Okay, so I'm going to do the big disclaimer up front that we just got back from 2 camping trips and we're exhausted. So if we sound like we're wrecked, it's because we are. So
True.
physically and mentally and exhausted and everything. We managed to come back with not quite matching, but I guess complementary tendon injuries this time.
We'll get into more about that later, but yeah.
So anyway, Arrowhead Provincial Park, we've been there, I think, every season now, haven't we?
I think so.
Have we done spring? I don't know if we've done spring. But our first trip was in fall of 2023, and we had a great time, and we posted some gorgeous photos. And then one of our friends who was holding out on us told us at that point that the park was actually known for a big skating trail through the campground in the winter. So we had no idea before that point. So obviously we had to go back, and we went back that winter and camped a few times.
Yep.
And we went back this year just now and figured it's about time to do a winter camping review of that.
That's right. Let's get into all the details.
Well, first we should talk about getting there.
That's true.
So as we found out this year, and now this is our second year of winter camping, so I don't know how accurate this is overall, especially given that last year was barely a winter, right?
Yeah.
Just throughout Southern Ontario. But if you're coming from the GTA to Arrowhead, you have to pass through what we are starting to see as Snow Squall Alley. And it seems like there is a good chance of getting hit with weather on the way to Arrowhead or Killbear or any of the places up there. So last time we passed through that area was on the way to Mew Lake, and we very, very narrowly avoided getting caught in that big Gravenhurst dumping that had people stuck on the highway for days.
Yeah, we missed that by what, 2 or 3 hours?
Yeah, we had no snow in Hamilton, and we were driving up there, and it was snowing. I'm like, oh, look how pretty it is. And I posted pictures to Facebook, and I felt like a total douchebag after that, because a few hours later, it was like people camping on the highway because they couldn't move anywhere. So anyway, this time around, we didn't have much of a problem getting there, but we narrowly avoided a big winter storm on the way out. So you're going to want to check. I advise not just checking where you are for the weather and where you're going, so at the Huntsville weather, but checking like Barrie and whatever in between, because it can be like a narrow band of just rotten weather going through. So like sometimes it won't show up for Huntsville, but if you check Gravenhurst, they're getting walloped. So just check, be safe. Better safe than sorry, you know? Anyway, completely aside, so let's get to that review. Okay, so some basic information about Arrowhead Provincial Park. It is located in Huntsville, which is in the Muskoka region. It is a natural environment park, and the season runs from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025, or well, all year, every year, basically. So then we'll talk about some logistics.
Yeah, the registration and check-in, it's just like all the other provincial parks. We book on through their site. There's only 7 campsites available, so be aware of that. They're popular, especially on the weekends, so I would say book early if you can. They are a permitless system, which is great. If you're pre-registered, you can just go to your site and you're all good. The front gate is closed, so if you do need to check in, you want to go to the visitor center.
The front office.
The front office is closed, sorry. You go to the visitor center if you're not pre-registered. It's a good idea to go there anyway because you're going to want to pick up a map. They do have the maps out front where they have a little TV screen. Unfortunately, that wasn't working this time, but the maps were available. Or you can go in and they've got some cool stuff.
We saw that screen in the fall, and that was really slick.
It was.
I don't know if that's just not on in the winter or not, but that was pretty cool.
Yep.
I could see that being really effective for the winter too, because it told you the conditions of the trails, didn't it?
It did.
Or what was open or whatnot. So yes. I could see that being amazing for the ski trails.
Yeah, I hope they fix that soon.
Yeah, so anyway, we had a little bit of
issue.
I was trying to think of a word that did not involve dropping an F-bomb. But anyway, so we got to the Arrowhead a little bit earlier than normal. Because if you show up before the 2 o'clock check-in, you can usually go to your site if it's empty, right? So we drove by the site, and there were people packing up. So they had no tent, they had no equipment out. It was just 3 cars and guys getting into it. So we're like, oh, okay, well, they're probably going to be out in like 10 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
And we went back, and they weren't there, but their cars were there. And we're like,
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
so
we just parked in the
the
visitor center
visitor
parking
center, we
lot.
had
Yeah.
lunch, whatever.
Yeah.
And then so we go back and we went back after 2, and then we waited till almost 3, and they were still not there, but their cars were there. So at that point, like the weather, I mean, it's winter, so like you only have so many hours of daylight, and the
Right.
trail conditions were gorgeous, and it was
Oh.
sunny and beautiful, and we were just chomping at the bit to like just get set up and get out on the trails, right? So yeah, almost around 3 o'clock, we're like, you know what, just whatever, we're gonna talk to the park about it. So we had to go into the visitor center and talk to the park. This isn't a complaint about the park, by the way. Like, we
Right.
just want to bring this up because people are douchebags. And if you're considering doing this, don't.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we went to the park and they called us like minutes later to say that they're packing up and leaving.
Right.
So-
Yeah. When I went in, they immediately went on their little radio system and talked to the park wardens. And apparently they went out there right away. And
Yeah, super on the ball. So amazing for them. But like, I don't understand. I wanted to rant about this here. If you are packed up, you don't have your campground up, you've got, your tent taken down, your trucks are parked up, you're not plugged in, you're literally just using that campsite as a parking lot, go to the visitor center.
Yeah, there's plenty of parking there. There were a lot of
Tons.
people there, but there were still a ton of spots available.
The thing that I don't get, right, is so that the weather was gorgeous that day. I can't imagine packing up the car and being like, okay, well, we got to be back by 2, and like,
Right.
and having to disrupt our day. Like, why wouldn't you go pack at the visitor center and then not have to worry about it? You could ski your heart out until you felt like leaving,
Right.
Well, I guess they weren't watching at the time, so maybe that wasn't such an issue for them. But anyway, yeah, wanted to bring that up. Just have some consideration, Like, it's one thing that I'm not saying anyone has to be out before 2 o'clock, but I mean, in that case, I definitely would have been.
Yeah, why not?
I wouldn't want to watch the clock. I'd want to be, okay, we're done, we're packed up, we're good to go. Let's ski until we feel like dropping.
Exactly.
Anyway, more logistics. So the maps and signage at Arrowhead. So the nice thing about it, so now at this point, this is like our second last review of the year, and it's our last review of Provincial Parks winter camping. So we've kind of seen it all at this point. Of all the parks, I think Arrowhead has the best setup for the maps and signage. There are some that have winter maps and maybe they're photocopies, and some of them have some degree of winter signage, but it's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so they've got a dedicated winter map, a full color glossy 11 by 17 map that's actually folded as a pocket map so that you can bring it on the trails. Now, this is key because their trail, like this map, you want to bring it on the trails because it's a very complicated like mesh of trail system, but it's all amazingly like labeled. Like they've got every intersection labeled with a unique letter, and they've got all the different like designations for distance and segmented distance at that, because you can intersect different trails, and it's got the difficulty.
They do have good trail signage out there too, but I do agree with you that you should have the map with you.
Yeah, if you're halfway in between, you're like, oh wait, where's that place I got to turn next?
Yeah.
Like, it's great. So I like that they've got it folded up like that. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that, so most of the parks that have a winter trail map, what they do is they have the summer map, and they'll either give you the summer map or they'll have the summer map, but it's kind of superimposed with winter stuff, right? Arrowhead actually just has a straight up winter map. So the parts of the campground that aren't open aren't represented in the way that they are in the summer. So the campground, it shows where the trail is that goes around the border of it, but you don't need to know all those like little side streets and stuff because they're not accessible. So I appreciate that it's like, this is what you're seeing. The same goes with the signage. So a lot of the winter campground, like the campgrounds that are open during the winter, will have signage that says, like if your ski trail's in the whatever campground, right, it'll point you to the whatever campground. You just know that if you're going to X ski trail, we'll head towards the campground named this. At Arrowhead, they have everything named by the winter. So rather than saying, oh, well, the skating trail's in the East River campground, there's the sign for the East River campground, there's a sign to the skating trail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very direct, and I like that. I also like that their signage is very inclusive. I think all of them pretty much have like little pictograph kind of, not pictograph, but little graphic images, symbols, whatever.
Yep.
And I find that's great just because we do have a lot of new Canadians. And if they're not, don't have all their winter terminology down or don't know exactly what, snowshoeing is or what this is, it's very visual, and That's what that word is. So
Yeah.
it's a little thing, but I appreciate it, you know? I think that's all I have to say about the map. The other thing about the map is I am a fan of whoever their cartographer is. I've seen so many crappy maps, and I'm sorry for ranting about maps. It's becoming a special interest at this point. But their map was clear. It was a ton of information. It was really clearly presented. It was good resolution. Excuse me. And like just little things like the key was not only clear and legible and like good size type and everything like that, but it was also on a white background. So all that color coding actually shows up as color coding, unlike Killbear, which was terrible for that. But yeah, whoever did their map, their winter map, needs to do all the maps for Ontario provincial parks. I got to say, like the only complaint I had about that map is that the washroom at the Lookout Trail parking lot wasn't represented on the map, which isn't a big deal because if you're going there anyways, you're going to find a bathroom there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like if you're planning your day, it might be nice to know that there's a washroom there because the other ones were indicated. So super minor thing. The maps were fantastic. And like I said, the signage was fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, do you want to talk waste and water services?
Well, unfortunately, their dumping system is not open during the winter. That's kind of one of the negative parts about the park. Now, a lot of the provincial
I think that's
parks,
like the big negative about Arrowhead because the problem with Arrowhead is it's right in between. It's the middle of three campgrounds that are relatively close together because it's kind of in between Killbear and Mew Lake, and we like to do multi-stop camping, right? Because we only get like less than a week worth of a trip out of a tank, right? So it's nice if one campground has the dump station. Unfortunately, all three of those in the area do not.
Right, and so it's not uncommon, is what I was saying, to not have their dumping system open in the winter. But we obviously wish they did. They do have water available. So at the comfort station, there's an outdoor post set up. And that one is a winterized system.
Not threaded, though.
It is not a threaded one. So we really want to filter our water. We actually dump it into a 5-gallon bucket, and then we have a little pump and a filter system to pour it in. Probably overkill, but that's what we like to do.
Yeah. So is there anything else we need to think? Oh, the garbage dump situation there in terms of like water and waste. So the garbage dump that's normally in use is not in use. It's actually completely like blocked off, barricaded off, snowed in, whatever.
Right.
There's a parking lot for the cabins.
Yep.
And the weird thing is that's the only garbage disposal area I noticed in the park, right? And it is on the map. I'm pretty sure it is on the map, is the dump station. But there's also signage there saying, like, don't enter unless you're camping there, or that the parking is just for cabins or whatever. So it very much visually discourages you from going in there, even though that's where. And it's not that there's like a little dump and we're using the one that's intended for the cabins. It was that was the dump.
Yeah, there were like 3 dumpsters or something.
Yeah,
there.
like more than for a handful of cabins. That was the campground dump area for the winter, and it's just weird how it kind of visually like discouraged you from going in there. I think that could have been more clear.
Well, especially on the weekend, and I think they did this because they get a lot of day users on the weekend. They had it like partially barricaded off, so you couldn't accidentally go in there and park. You have to really intentionally go in.
Yeah, but then you feel like you're doing something like wrong when you're like, oh, I have to go throw my garbage out. Crossing the barricade, you know, it's a bit weird. So
it is.
I don't know that I have any suggestions for how to do that better, though. You know what I mean? Because it's like I can see them not wanting people to park in there, but then it should be a little bit more welcoming for the campers. I don't know.
I guess if they could,
minor issue.
Exactly. If they could squeeze the dumpster by the comfort station, that would just clear it all up for me.
Yeah. And there might be. I didn't notice one.
I didn't notice one either, but I didn't look that hard.
Yeah. As I said, I think it says on the map that's where the garbage is. It's just it's weird that you're directed somewhere and then, you know, it ends up not being where you're supposed to be.
Yep.
So, anyway, snow removal.
They did a really good job. We were up really early the morning we left.
Yeah, because we knew weather was coming, so we did a hightailed it out of there first thing before, like you were hooking the car up before the sun was up.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it was just starting to get first light, so I didn't need to do it with a flashlight. It was pretty dark though.
And we were nervous because I was thinking like, oh crap, we're going to be good to go. We're not going to be able to get out because the roads aren't going to be plowed yet. Because I was thinking some of the other campgrounds we're at, they start around 7 a.m. or something, like, when people are. But I can understand that. You don't want to wake people up,
Right. So in our case, the campground road had not been plowed yet, but the main road was. So it was easy enough for us with the pulse through site to get to the campground road, finish hooking up there, and the main roads were just great,
spectacular. And because we'd gotten some snow overnight too,
quite a bit,
and it was pristine, and it was the whole way too. So that was great. One thing I do want to mention though is that they go above and okay, honestly, this is probably going to be kind of colored by the fact that we just came out of like the worst plow job ever at Killbear. That was so bad.
Yeah.
The second site, the first site was great.
Yeah.
But they go above and beyond at the plowing the campsites. And I mean, granted, there are only 7 campsites.
Yeah.
But they cleared the whole campsite out. Like each of those, it wasn't just the pull through that they did. They cleared the whole like landing area. I saw that all the picnic tables were brushed off. They dug around each of the fire pits. Like it was big and open. And it's like, not only is that nice in terms of like finding the best place to set your equipment, but it's just, I find it more welcoming in general. And it's also an accessibility issue for me,
Right.
like I see that. And it's like, I couldn't imagine, and I get that we weren't on like an accessible campsite at Killbear, but I can't imagine having any kind of a mobility aid at the time and like trying to get around a completely unplowed site.
Yeah.
And here it's like none of the 7 campsites at Arrowhead are designated as barrier free, but more than half of them actually had the barrier free like wheelchair accessible picnic tables on them, because I went through and I looked at them all because we had one. So it seems like it's more accessible than it's labeled for, which is the complete opposite of what we tend to see at provincial parks.
Yeah, and in addition to accessibility, who wants to spend your vacation trying to shovel out the fire pit so you can cook dinner if that's how you want to do it?
Yeah, like I think it's just more welcoming for that, because like if it's cold out and you're like, oh, a fire might be nice, and then you look outside, it's just like, yeah, let's not.
Exactly. Yep.
So I appreciate that.
Definitely.
The internet.
I was happy enough with the internet.
Yeah, so I find it's hit or miss throughout the campground in general, and it kind of varies between the time of year. I find it's a little bit better in the winter. It was good in the pull through sites, but there are some areas of the park where there's like no internet.
We're on Rogers Wireless, by the way.
Yeah. So basically, if you're in the camping area, it's pretty good. If you're near the visitor center, it's pretty good. Out by the falls, I think it was pretty good if I remember correctly. But then along the road, like along the main road, there's complete dead zones in there too. So,
it's really hilly, so I imagine that's part of it.
Yeah. So anyway, let's talk accessibility.
Yeah, as far as accessibility goes, you're a lot more
crippled.
Experienced.
You're
a lot more experienced. Okay? So please tell us your thoughts.
Okay, so every park we've been to so far this year, I think the accessibility section has ended up being, kind of a downer, because it's like, as I said for the Killbear one, I think I'm coming to the conclusion that winter camping is just not going to be an accessible thing. So then we show up to Arrowhead, and oh my God, I finally get to say something positive. I'm so thrilled about this. So it started out with, we saw that they have a sit ski available for rent. It might be a loan. I think it's a rent. I don't know. Don't quote me one way or the other.
It's available.
It's available. They have specialized disability ski inclusive equipment available. That's amazing. So they also have the row trail is marked as being, what was the name they used? It was like adaptable ski trail or something, adaptable barrier free, something like that. It was something I haven't seen listed on any of the other ones. So I called the office and I asked to speak to someone about this. The guy that answered the phone was so excited to talk about accessibility accommodations. Like he was like thrilled that someone was asking about accessibility. It was amazing to hear. If you're not disabled yourself, you might not be aware that a lot of the time disability accommodations gets treated like
a checklist,
like an imposition. No, like a checklist for sure. Like they'll check and they'll be like, okay, yeah, barrier free, but it's like an imposition. This guy was so genuinely happy to be inclusive. Like he was really proud. You know what it was giving? It was giving bon cher.
I was just thinking bon cher.
Bon cher.
Bond share is great for accessibility if that wasn't just made
and
obvious.
they're so proud of it, and
Yes.
they're like they're so excited to talk about it and everything. So it's giving bond share. It's like the winter bond share. So anyway, so there are a few things that I should talk about. I guess the basics. First of all, the camp store and the visitor center, the comfort station, they're all marked as barrier free. They do have the barrier free showers, whatnot. They do lose a few points for the location of the comfort station if you're there for camping, because the comfort station, it's not really a walking distance if you've got mobility issues, and that road is very full of potholes. I would not want to wheel a wheelchair from the campground area to the comfort station. It's a bit of a distance. And yeah, I feel like having to drive up the main road isn't exactly barrier free. And then the toilet that's in the campground area is not marked as barrier free itself. The lead up to it was barrier free. I didn't actually go in there, so for all I know, it could be some degree of barrier free. It's not designated barrier free. As I mentioned, like the snow removal, that's an accessibility issue, and they're spectacular on that. And like I said, more than half of the sites had the wheelchair accessible picnic tables. Not sure how much of an issue that is in the winter, but it's worth mentioning. All of the campsites they're not designated barrier free, but they are flat and wide and easy to access. And with the plowing, I think they're very accessible. The Big Bend Lookout is an easy trail to get to. It's not wheelchair accessible. And the same goes for the Stubbs Falls trails up to the point of the stairs. So you can walk a kilometer on flat, wide, well-packed,
right,
easy trail. Not wheelchair accessible. But when you get to the falls, there's a lot of stairs.
There are.
But anyway, beyond that, so that's all the basic stuff. Back to this conversation I had with the guy. So rather than doing just the bare minimum like other parks, they actually go looking for ways to be more inclusive. So beyond the sit ski, so the sit ski specifically, they just got a backrest for it. So that apparently, I'm not someone that has to use a sit ski, so I'm not well versed in this, but apparently this backrest attachment for it increases the usability. It's optional. You can use it with or without it. They also have a set of blades for the sit ski, so you can use it as an ice sled or bring it out on the ice skating trail, which is really cool.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. It can accommodate an average size adult, but they've also used it for a kid recently. The Row Classic trail that was called Adaptive Cross Country, it's a flat, even trail, but then they also set the tracks in such a way that it makes it easier to get out of the the sit ski if you're using it. And then he was just telling me about how they've got this waxing room. We're so new to skiing. I don't know what a waxing room all entails and whatever, but apparently it's a beautiful room. And they've got these big tables for, I'm assuming, waxing your skis. We have waxless skis, so I don't know anything about that.
Right.
But he says that there's these big tables that have 10-inch lips around the outside. And I'm assuming that's to hold your skis up or something.
Sounds like it.
But so anyway, he says that these waxing tables have these 10-inch lips around them, and he realized that if you're in a wheelchair, you can't really reach over them. Like, you're not able to do this. So he took one of the tables and he took the lips off, and he sanded it down to make it a wheelchair accessible waxing table. And he was really proud of this. It was. I wish you could have talked to this guy. It was so sweet. He seemed like a really nice guy, but it was just I cannot get over the whole thing about, like, so many parks. It's like, if you ask about disability accommodation, it's like it's an afterthought. It's they have to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's for insurance or legality or what, but it's like something they have to check off. And he was so excited.
Yep.
So
that's great.
It was such, and it's such. I'm not a wheelchair user myself, but I know what it's like to not be able to walk and to be completely, couch bound, bed bound, whatever, just because of like past issues with the tendons that I'm still recovering from. I don't want to miss out, and I don't think anyone should have to miss out. And it sucks when, you have a degree of disability, whatever degree that is, and people think that, well, then this is not for you, and it's like, but it could be, it could be. Like, there are the sit skis, you could be able to use your campsite if it was cleared out or whatever. So it's like, it was really big to me that they did this, and it's going to be a huge, giant rant. I'm sorry for how long I'm going on here, but like I said, every single campsite we've been to has been a negative review. So I'm going to spend my time talking up Arrowhead because this is fantastic. So, anyways, beyond what they offer there, he actually told me that the Arrowhead, what was it called? Arrowhead Nordic Ski Club operates out of the park. It's not the park itself, but they operate out of there. That they're also big on inclusivity. So they have several different kinds of sit skis for their members. I don't know how the membership works, but if you're going to camp there, you might want to look into joining them as well. Anyways, they've got several different types of sit skis, including one that's a kneeling style. And I guess they got a former high school gym teacher involved that works with the Canada national team for Paranordic sports.
Okay.
And they're doing a whole like program and lessons and stuff. And he was really excited about this. So it sounds like there's a lot going on as far as disability accommodations in Arrowhead. So he had me get a hold of a superintendent or something, and she's going to be giving me any information on in the future. It was just nice to see because we'd been there in the fall. I think it was the fall this year, and they had those adaptive canoes and kayaks and stuff.
Right.
So it's like a year-round thing that they are definitely concerned about being accessible. So that was amazing to see that it's brought into the winter also. Anyway, I will stop ranting about accommodations now. Okay, so tell me about the pet situation.
So the areas in the summer, like the pet beach and the dog exercise areas, are not accessible except by ski trail, but you cannot have the dogs on those ski trails, so they're just not accessible.
So no pet exercise area. They're not even on the map, so they're definitely not intended to be.
Right.
There is a multi-use trail that allows dog walking on it, the Lookout Classic Trail. You did that one.
Yeah, it's really, really wide, and it would be great. The nice thing is they allow skijoring.
Yeah, we'd never heard of skijoring before this trip. Now you're obsessed.
Oh, I know. This is a new term for me, and I just want to see it so bad. So it's basically just you're getting pulled on skis by your dog, or apparently a horse can be done too. I don't know.
I don't know if they allow that at Arrowhead. They just say skijoring. But now, to be fair, they don't say skijoring dog only.
That's fair. So I say bring your horse and see what happens.
Better to apologize than ask forgiveness than to ask permission.
That's right.
No, I like to say, because if you go with your dog, right? Like, why walk your dog when your dog can walk you?
There you go. I love it. I love it.
Anyway, as always, they need to be leashed and supervised at all times, picked up after, and you're not allowed to, the dogs aren't allowed to harass other campers or wildlife. Not that the wildlife's going to be an issue.
That's right.
We'll get onto that later.
But your dogs are allowed to skijor other people, right?
Is skijor other? Like, can you do a...
Can I verbify it?
You can verbify. Well, skijoring is a verb. Yeah. I was thinking that is more of a... What would that be? Like an aggressive verb? Like a verb applied against? I don't know.
I don't even know.
We're getting stupid.
I want to be skijored.
That sounds raunchy.
Did not mean it that way.
Wow. We're going to go for the Norwegian. No, I'm not even
Nope.
Let's
not. Moving on. Parking.
Anyway, tell us about parking, Porter.
Yeah, so the pull-through sites, like we said, all the campsites that are available are pull-through. They're great for parking. They're really big. We put our motorhome and our car on it with no problem at all. So that's great. The parking lot at the visitor center is massive.
And pristine.
Yeah, they've plotted out really well. The one over
and well labeled, we should say, because it's got different sections. So there's like a trailer only section and whatnot. It's well labeled and just very good,
Yeah, the Lookout Classic Trail, when you're going to go skijoring, that's got a parking lot that's plenty big on it too. Yeah. And that was also well plowed out. A little bit of a hill, but our car didn't have any problem getting up it. The Big Bend Lookout, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
That one has a pretty small parking lot. There's probably enough for 4 or 5 cars, but I only remember seeing like two at a time.
And the thing is the Big Bend Lookout thing is, not only is there never really a whole lot of people there, it's a very short stop.
It is.
It's like 0.1 kilometer from the parking to the overlook, and it's not really somewhere where you're going to sit there for an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
the fact that there's not a ton of parking, I think it's totally proportionate to the usage. I don't think you're ever going to have a backlog of people trying to get in there.
I agree.
And I think that's the thing with the parking there. It's very well laid out and proportionate to the use. Like, I think the trail that you had was proportionate to the use. the dump station area repurposed as a parking lot for the skate trail. I think it allows for a nice amount of parking for that skate trail without too much, because that skating trail, like, it can only accommodate a certain number of people.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the parking there is proportionate to it. I think the visitor center, the trail system can accommodate a lot of people. Trying to come up with a word there. Can accommodate a lot of people, and I think the visitor center having that much parking is perfect. So I think everything with the parking is just great, and it's well maintained.
Yeah.
So miscellaneous, we usually just talk about Northern Lights for miscellaneous or anything else that might apply. And I think for this part, it's just Northern Lights. Arrowhead is so frustrating.
It is.
And it's nothing against them. Every time we've been there. So there's this point in Arrowhead. It's a bridge and it overlooks Arrowhead Lake to the north. There's not a lot of light pollution to the north.
Yep.
There's this body of water. It's like the river Stubbs, like from Stubbs Falls and like between Stubbs Falls and Arrowhead, and it goes, and there's a bridge in front, like, because you're on the driving bridge.
Yep.
And there's the little bridge in front of you, and then it opens out on the lake, and it's this gorgeous scene. And if we could get Northern Lights there, it would be gorgeous.
It really would.
Right? And every time we are there is either no rural activity, or, like happened this time,
yep,
there's a rural activity. We were getting the KP notices, 100% cloud cover.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So a note on where you want to be. The driving bridge is a great place to stand for the view, because you get that small pedestrian bridge in the view and makes for a wonderful scene.
And no one's driving it at night.
Well, that's the thing, is the sidewalk is on the south side of the road. So you are standing in the road. Be careful for cars. There's an occasional car or two coming around.
But there's a long straightaway on either side of that.
There
like,
is.
You're not going to get snuck up on.
Yeah,
you know?
they can see you, but just be aware of that. If you know, the ultimate in safety, of course, is going down to that pedestrian bridge and looking over the
I don't
lake.
think you're supposed to do that because it's a ski trail. You're not supposed to walk on ski trails.
That's a good point.
If you're there in the fall or spring or whatnot, by all means, go down to that other one. But whatever. As I said, the thing is, in the campground closes at 5:00. The only people that are supposed to be out at all are those 7 campsites. So there is not driving traffic by the time the Northern Lights make an appearance or fail to make an appearance. But there's a parking lot right there also, so you don't have to walk very far to get to it. That is the only really north-facing view during the winter that's going to be at all easy to get to. But yeah, so we struck out yet again. But we've got a bunch of sites, a bunch of posts on our website on how to see the Northern Lights and how to photograph it and how to know if it's going to be happening or not. So definitely check out the link in our profile, and we've got all that information in the post on Arrowhead. Okay, so let's talk about the campground amenities. Washrooms are always a big deal, so let's talk about that first. What do you have to say about the comfort station situation?
So the comfort station has flush toilets, they've got showers, they've got a dishwashing station, which I think is pretty cool. They've got the potable water there. We talked a little bit about that earlier. The unfortunate part is they have no laundry on site. Yeah,
and we found out that the hard way on our first trip? Yeah, our first trip there, because Morgoth. So on the ride there, she threw up in the bed, and we didn't find out till bedtime, so we were scrambling.
Morgoth is our cat, by the way.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? It's like, yes, this Middle Earth demon threw up in our bed. No,
I mean, kind of.
I mean, that would be a camping trip. On the way to Mordor. Anyway, so Morgoth barfed in the bed, and we didn't find out till bedtime. So we spent the first full day of our camping trip trying to find laundry and to get in there. And I think we needed an appointment or something. And then it took forever because there was a comforter involved. So there is laundry in Huntsville, but if you can avoid your cat puking in the bed, maybe do that. Because it wasn't convenient.
we had tried to use their drop-off service, and that's where you needed an appointment.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
We had to just put it in the coin op and wait.
This was like a year ago, so that's why it was kind of fuzzy. But anyway, so they don't have laundry. So plan around and definitely bring an extra comforter and sheet set if you have a little
demon cat.
Middle Earth demon to barf in your bed. So anyway, so basically all the water gets shut off to all the campgrounds, by the way. So all of the other comfort stations throughout the park all of the water taps, all of the other washroom facilities, they're all closed for the winter. And like I was saying earlier, is the only unfortunate thing about this comfort station is that it is like if you're able-bodied and it's not absolutely miserable outside, it's walking distance from the campground, but it's like walking distance, like it's not like you go around the corner. It's a little bit of a hike. So
yep.
Especially given the condition of the roads, those roads are kind of terrible. They weren't that bad this time because the snow was packed into the potholes, but the potholes in the road, the campground, are really bad. So that's something to keep in mind. There's also washrooms at the visitor center at the trailhead for the Lookout Classic Trail, but as I mentioned, that's not on the map. So you're just going to have to trust us those there. You saw it. You can verify.
I did see it.
It looked nice. Anyway, so Park Store and Visitor Center.
Yeah, so it is large and it is awesome.
It's beautiful. It
really is.
Like it doesn't look like a campground like Park Store. It looks like I wouldn't even say touristy. I don't even know what to say. It looks very Muskoka.
It is.
That's what it looks like.
They've got a lot more than just your standard basic kind of stuff. They've got really cool like coffees. They've got a lot
artisan sodas.
Yeah,
they had the rack of maple everything, because it was like maple butter and maple syrup and maple candy and maple jelly. I don't even know what maple jelly would be like, but I want it. It basically and locally roasted coffee.
Yes.
And one of the trips we were there, they were telling us that there was a local family. Oh, I forget what they produced. But one of their suppliers, was it the lip? I don't think it was lip balms. Maybe it was the coffee. Anyways, one of their suppliers was so local. He said he'd just call him up and like the delivery would be made like that day fresh. So and he was really happy about that. They really seem to take pride in the park, I should say, like because he seemed really proud of the fact that that was there. So anyway, all in all, this campsite, this Park Store, it's way too easy to spend ridiculous amounts of money. Like as soon as you get to that maple rack.
That's true, but it's fun to just look at too if you're warming up for the ski. Maple.
That maple rack could do me in. Luckily I'm keto right now, so we did not hemorrhage money over it, but I could easily. So and it's just beautiful. It just puts you in the mood because it's this pretty and elegant, and it feels kind of upscale, and you just kind of want to spend money there,
It feels more like a resort kind of area.
It does, yeah. I think Arrowhead in general, like especially like outside of the visitor center.
Yeah.
So we're off on a tangent. I'm sure this should be more under the skis, but I love how the visitor center has that whole area. They've got this whole community kind of feel, like a different vibe for the skiing, because like any of the other ones, you ski and you ski. Like you ski, I ski. We just go and do our skiing and we're done.
Yep.
And this seems like this community thing. Like they've got these big racks that people put their skis on, and then they've got these big communal like fire pits and like
lots of seating
benches.
around.
Yeah. So it's just it seems more like, I don't want to say inclusive, but you know what I mean. It's more inviting,
it's homey.
It seems to encourage people more to like socialize with each other rather than just like you and I are going skiing and then we go back to the RV.
Right.
You know what I mean? It seems more like a vibe,
Yeah, definitely.
So, but yeah, I think that gives more of the resort feel too. So you can buy firewood there also, and actually, I should mention that there's a fireplace in there, a lounge area and a fireplace in the not the comfort station, the visitor center. I didn't actually see it this time. This has been months ago, no years, last year. I don't know. Things may have changed. I don't know, but at some point there was a fireplace in there. So that's all I know. Rentals.
Yeah, the rentals is in a different building, but really close by, and they offer a lot of stuff. So they've got skate skis, classic skis. They've got skates, snowshoes, sit skis, an ice sledge. I'm afraid I don't know what that is. They've got ski boots, poles, helmets. Basically, you can walk in there with just a credit card and nothing else, and you can go do whatever winter activities you want.
Hopefully nothing else. You're going to want to bring your own clothes.
You might want some undies on or something.
Wow. I think you want more than undies on.
Okay, you might want to stay warm, but they have all the equipment you need ready for you. So that's great.
And it was really pretty. And I went in, it was a nice building. Like it's actually, they've got a really robust rental program. I'd gone in there because I wanted to see the disability, the sit ski. The woman in there was super nice, but they had racks and racks of equipment. I should have looked at the skates though. I've got this major hate on for rental skates, so I was kind of curious. So I've noticed though a lot of places, and I can't say for Arrowhead, so don't quote me on this, but a lot of places now are renting the skates that look like rollerblades.
Okay.
You know, the big plastic ones, which are kind of better because for the longest time, rental skates meant like really old, like plastic, not plastic, but like the plastic fake leather, like Canadian Tire skates, like the really cheap ones, and they
Yeah.
would break your ankles. So I have never skated on the hard plastic like a rollerblade style, but I don't know. I couldn't do rental skates. Honestly, I couldn't do rental skates, so I have no idea what they're like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain quick, easy aspect to rollerblade kind of boot, so I can see where that would be an advantage for rental.
I feel like that would be weird for skating. I don't
But
know. I spent all my life on like really on legit figure skates, so it's
yeah,
hard to even imagine like the rollerblade thing because I can't even really. For most of the time, if I'm rollerblading, I'm using like ice skate boots rather
yeah,
than
but
rollerblade boots. So
they give a ton of ankle support, and so if you're not into
yeah.
skating, I think it's a big advantage to be able to say,
Well, and
look,
that's the
you're going to
thing.
get on the ice, you're going to do your thing, you're not going to
If
be a
they're
pro.
well padded and have the ankle support, then that's great. The old ones, like when we were living in Minneapolis and we went to that one place that rented skates. I can't remember if you had to rent them or someone had to rent them, but they look like they were made out of paper almost, and like
Huh.
you're gonna break your ankle on that. So hopefully they don't do that kind. This is a huge rent because we have no idea what the skates look like. For all they could be Jacksons and Whiffas and Rydell, Rysport, Harlicks. They're not Harlicks. They're not, oh my god, they're not Harlicks. I'm being dumb. We're tired. Anyway,
They have
moving right
they
along.
have skates.
They have skates. Okay, Porter, tell me about the campsites, the campgrounds, camping accommodations.
Yeah, so there's one little loop we mentioned before. There's 7 spots there available for car camping, tent camping. We actually noticed that tent camping seems to be more popular than the trailers.
Like every time we go there,
Yeah.
like there'll be 1 or 2 trailers and then like several of those hot tents.
Yeah, and each of those sites has got the electricity. It looks like they're all 50 amp service, which is really nice.
Well, 15, 30, 50, so you can do any of them.
Exactly. So we hooked up to the 30 amp, but I noticed it had the power port for the 50 amp. They've all got a fire pit. They've all got a picnic table. You mentioned they were in good condition, brushed
They're
off.
all pull through also.
Yeah, they are. They are, and really, really large. So in addition to that, what we haven't talked about there's 13 cabins available.
Yeah.
We mentioned it real quickly about the parking lot with the garbage.
The unfriendly parking.
Yeah. So right there, when you pull in, you'll park. There's a rack of sleds there, and you can sled your stuff to your cabin.
Yeah, that is an important thing to notice. While there is parking for the cabins, you can't park at your cabins. So there's a trail, and you have to sled your stuff in.
Yep, and then you just bring the sled back, and good to go.
Pack accordingly.
Yeah, they're not
going to be hauling it.
They're not all that far down, you know.
I saw like 2 from the campsite. Like, are they all close, or is it just that there were like 2 or 3 of them nearby?
I'm pretty sure they're all pretty close because I walked just a little ways down the trail, take a quick look, and I could see several of them.
Okay.
I didn't count them all, but so.
You can kind of see them from the skating trail. I remember from last year. I thought that was kind of cool, but like you're not going to want to skate your stuff in, so, especially on rental skates. Anyway. Okay, so let's talk about the stuff you can do at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff to do. So like some other parks, you pretty much only have like 1 or 2 options. And I find Arrowhead, it's everything. Like there's something for everyone. And it's not even just something for everyone of every interest. It's, are you a beginner at this? Or are you know what I mean? Like there's something for everyone. So anyways, first off is hiking because that's the one that's most easily accessible to me. There's not much in the way of the hiking because a lot of the hiking trails get converted to ski trails for the winter. You're not allowed to walk on the ski trails. So there are 3 options. One's not really a hike. So the first one that's not really a hike is the Big Bend Lookout. It's like 0.1 or 0.2 kilometers from the parking area to the lookout. It's very nice. It's a very short little walk. You know, it's right around the corner from the campground. Like you really don't need to park there unless you're day use because it's right there. Beautiful little walk, but it's not, you're not going to get exercise there. I guess what I'm saying. The Stubbs Falls Trail is 2 kilometers and it's easy for the most part. So the deal is this loop has 2 straightaways that are easy, but as you come to like the top of the loop where the falls are, there's a ton of stairs. So it's definitely worth going down the stairs, but just know that I think it might take the easy off that. It's definitely not wheelchair accessible.
And the stairs themselves are like that metal lathe that is really safe, but the landings at the top and in the middle are kind of snowpack and we're a little bit slippery. So just be a little careful there.
And one thing to mention there is you're not really supposed to go off the trail, but everyone does, right? Yeah. Especially in the fall, in the winter, or not the winter. We're in the winter. I'm not awake yet. Anyways, the fall and the spring, the best way to see the falls is to go down off the main trail on the rocks there. Unless you've been there in the summer and know what's there, I don't necessarily recommend doing that in the winter. Obviously, with the water flowing over it, there's a lot of ice issues. It's a lot more dangerous. If you don't know what's under the snow, right? Like, because this time it looked completely different than the last time we were there in the winter. Because last time in the winter it was just you could see the rocks, you could go out on the rocks, and it was basically like summer but with a wintry background. This time it was snow covered.
Yeah, I went out on the flat part of the rocks. I didn't dare go down the section. It's almost kind of like a stair step kind of pattern going down a little bit. I didn't dare go down there. And I also noticed that the actual like river stream itself was kind of partially ice covered, and I knew roughly where the end was, and I wasn't about to walk out on there. Yeah. But you could accidentally be over the water.
Basically, don't do anything stupid.
Yep.
If you can't see the water, that doesn't mean it's not there. And it's running water. So even if you see ice, don't go out on the ice because that is doing something stupid. So it's a beautiful walk, especially if it's like lightly falling snow. When you're coming back, it was like that heavy kind of snow globy Christmas snow. Yeah, that was beautiful.
That was fantastic. I had a great time.
Last time we were there, actually, I found that the views on the trail were a bit nicer when it was not quite fully frozen. So there was the snow on the ground and snow in the trees, and it was very beautiful. But then looking down at the water, it had that black water mirror-like gorgeous whatever. And now it's like all snow covered and all iced over. So I preferred a little bit more before it fully freezes. Anyway, that is a walking and snowshoeing option, obviously. Yes. And then the next one is the Lookout Classic Trail. Now, I don't know if this is a new trail or not. I don't remember this being an option last time we were there in the winter.
I don't either.
So I don't know what's on the go with that. But anyway, that's a 3-kilometer long trail, and it's near the front of the park. So basically, as you're coming in and you pass that front gate office thing, the first right, like immediately after that, is a parking lot. And that's where it is. And I said earlier, there's a washroom there. So this is the only fully multi-use trail. So you can do classic cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. It's the only place you can go fat biking in the park. And skijoring, obviously, as we talked about before. You walked this trail.
I did. Real quick, this is the very minor exception to the rule when it comes to signage, because as you noted, you take that quick right, but I didn't see a sign there. I kind of...
Oh, that's well, I think it's probably new.
Probably.
Because I feel like we would have seen it on the map last year.
Yeah.
I really do.
And once you get up there, there's a trailhead sign, so it becomes really obvious. The most impressive thing to me was the grooming. So I was debating like, oh, should I go hiking or should I go snowshoeing? Because the snow was pretty deep. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go hiking because I want to do it a little faster. And I figured I'd be able to get through it one way or another.
And it sounds annoying with your big camera to go snowshoeing.
Yeah. But this thing was groomed probably 10 or 12 feet wide. And it was
nice. Seems really wide. So this is a bike trail in the summer.
Okay.
So I kind of assumed it was going to be narrow and bumpy and rough. And I don't know what to make of mountain biking trails. I always picture it being rough, you know?
Yeah. And maybe there's a smaller trail within it and all the trees are cleared for the groomers. But nonetheless, it was nicely packed. I didn't have to worry about like falling through, snow or at all. It was absolutely wonderful to walk on. And it would have been fine to snowshoe on as well, but you definitely did not need them. I did not see any evidence of bikes being on there, but you mentioned you could bring fat bikes. I didn't see any evidence of skijoring either, so I was pretty disappointed about that.
I mean, if you can't see skijoring, maybe you need to be the skijoring, Porter.
I like that kind of attitude. I love it. So it's a great walk through the forest. I had a lot of fun. I didn't see any wildlife, unfortunately. That's not really the park's fault, obviously. But I was hopeful that there'd be something to see, but didn't get to pull out the camera at all.
The thing I noticed from your photos, I didn't do this one because I was kind of messed up at the time. Tendons. So anyways, the thing I noticed about your photos is it seems like this walk is a lot more effort for less payoff than the lookout, the Big Bend lookout.
Yeah.
Like you had some views, and it's called the Lookout Trail.
Right. There's a lot of different kinds of woodsy forest, which is really interesting and fun to walk through. But you're right. The lookout itself, when you get to this elevated area, is kind of like, oh, that's it. There's not like a giant wooden structure and a lookout, kind of like a railing and things to really look out. It's just kind of like, oh, you're in an elevated position and there's a little clearing in the trees.
Yeah.
So don't temper your expectation when it comes to that. Now, overall, this path has a lot of inclines to it, and it's
rated moderate. So
okay. Yeah, I was definitely fatigued by the time I came back because it felt like
you also hoofed it. Let's be real.
I did go pretty fast, but it felt like it was uphill both ways because it felt like
you're old.
I know. It felt like you'd go up 2 small hills and then down one small hill. And the whole way there, I'm thinking, okay, well, obviously the way back is going to be mostly downhill. And it didn't feel like it. And obviously it was because I came back to where I started.
Because that's the way physics works.
That's the way physics works. But just be aware.
Geometry, I suppose.
There are inclines, and they're not super steep, but there's inclines.
I mean, anything with snow involved is going to make it more difficult than if it wasn't. So it's already rated moderate as a biking trail. And see, here's the thing, is it's not listed as a hiking trail. So when it's listed as moderate for the summer camping stuff, that's moderate as a biking trail. And I don't know how that compares to like a hiking trail. Like if a trail serves dual purposes, hiking and biking, is it like moderate for hiking but easier for biking, or is it vice versa? Because I would assume, because on one hand, you're like under power to some degree for a bike. So you think some degrees would be easier, but then also it's like every little rock I've got to imagine makes it more difficult.
That's the thing. When I think of a moderate trail in summer, I think of like little boulders and roots in your way, and you really have to watch your footing, and that makes it, very difficult.
Well, that's part why I didn't go with you, because like I was already having a hard time, and I'm like, if this is rated moderate in summer, I'm not doing 3 kilometers moderate in the winter. Anyway, that's a rant.
I like the trail.
Okay. The next category is fat biking. So that is the only fat biking trail in the summer or in the winter. I don't know what I'm talking about. I need coffee. You didn't make me coffee today. Anyway, birding, wildlife, and nature. So we have had good luck with birding in the past. Last time we were there, you were chasing after a red-tailed hawk, I think it was.
It was some kind of hawk.
Screamy boy.
Yep.
Screamy boy. And while he was doing that, I was taking pictures of this. I don't remember which woodpecker it was, but there was a woodpecker like meters away from me.
Yep.
Just putting on a show. So like we've had good birding at Arrowhead. That was not the case this time. Again, not a complaint about Arrowhead, because like that would be some next level shit for them to be like, we are going to curate your stay with the finest of birds for you to watch. No, they're just, we didn't. We heard a crow, a goldfinch, chickadees, and a white-breasted nuthatch, and we did not see a single one.
Yeah, I heard evidence of a woodpecker when I was skiing. I could hear the knock, 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 knock. I couldn't find them. It didn't seem like a very large bird, so I don't think it was a great pileated or something. It was probably just a harrier.
You've got a thing for those pileateds, man.
Pileateds are awesome because they look like pterodactyls.
They do. That one that was it Emily?
Earl Rowe?
Earl Rowe. Anyway, we got to put video up of that sometime.
Yeah.
Anyway. Cross-country skiing is obviously the main draw of this park. There's 28 kilometers of classic ski trails, plus another 16 kilometers of skate ski trails. I need to try skate skiing sometime. If my feet ever just bleep that. if my feet ever decide to get with the program and my tendons behave themselves, I would like to take up skate skiing some point, because I feel like that would be a ton of fun. Anyway, their trails are spectacular. Like they've got so many, and they're all intersecting. And like I said earlier, like the logistics of this place are just phenomenal, especially in the winter. But everything is groomed like really well. Like those ski trails are beautiful.
Yeah, and they were even grooming them midday when I was out on one of the trails.
Yeah, and there hadn't been snow falling. They were just grooming from use.
Yeah.
you know?
And that was a
So,
Monday, so it wasn't like, oh, this is
oh,
the big.
that's right, too.
Yeah, it wasn't like, well, this is the big Saturday, we better keep up on it. It's like, no, they're just keeping up on it because.
I love Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Anyway, so overall, the trails that they have there's the Arrowhead Lake Trail, which is 5.1 kilometers, moderate, and it's for classic and skate skiing. There's the Beaver Meadow Trail, which is listed as being 5 kilometers, moderate, and for classic skiing, but you do need to ski a couple moderate kilometers each way to get to that section of trail that is 5 kilometers. That's not counted in the 5 kilometers. There's a Bunny Trail, which is a kilometer long, easy classic skiing. I feel like this is going to be boring for someone to hear me say this, but basically, okay, there's a bunch of different trails. One that's a difficult rating for skate skiing, that's a Homesteaders Trail. You know, they've got a bunch of them. I talked about the accessible/adaptive one.
Yep.
But basically, there's all these different lengths. There's all these different views and different difficulties, and you can kind of like piece them together to kind of choose your own adventure. So that's nice.
It really is. You can go as long as you want if you just want to go around here to there and everywhere, or you can just pick a short one.
They also make it easy for you to kind of plan it out because they don't just say this trail is 4 kilometers long. They'll say this trail is 4 kilometers long, but then on the map, they've got it segmented between each of the intersections.
Yep.
So you don't need to know that this trail is 4 kilometers long if you go, well, okay, I'm going to be doing the 1.1 kilometers here, and then I'm going to turn off there. And if I do the first section of that, it's, you know, so I love the way they lay that out. In terms of the trails, we did 2. We did the Row Trail, which was the easy, accessible, flat, classic skate skiing one. This was my second time out on skis since grade 6, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And my Achilles was not fond of the idea, and I took myself out for the rest of the season. I did it in kind of a glorious fashion. That fall was something to behold, and I'm glad we do not have video for anyone to behold of it. I still don't understand quite what happened, but my Achilles is done. So it was a nice enough trail. I mean, it goes through the Row campground. Yeah. It's walking. The start of the trail is walking distance from our campground that we were in, the winter campground. Because basically it starts out kind of from the parking lot for the Big Bend Lookout.
Yep.
Just go straight out from there. It's very flat, very well groomed. I don't know what to say. I mean, you're going through a campground, and it was a big, wide trail.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place to get started on things if you're a beginner like we are.
And then you did what was the name of the trail you did again?
Arrowhead Lake Skate and Classic.
That looked beautiful.
It was.
I basically pressured you to go out, because I was holed up and couldn't do anything. So I pressured him to go out because we're at Arrowhead and it's all gorgeous and the weather was great and whatever. But my big thing was I wanted you to go down over that bridge. That the pedestrian bridge that you're not allowed to walk on.
Yep.
I thought the view would be nice. So I said, I don't care what you do. Just go down and do that. So you ended up doing the big trail around the lake.
Yeah. So the Arrowhead Lake Trail is rated moderate. And I was really curious to know what moderate meant in skiing because I'm new to this. At the start of this trip, I had gone around 15 kilometers in skiing.
We also kind of have to temper what we think is moderate per campground because as we've seen, different provincial parks when it comes to hiking, have very, very, very different definitions on the difficulty ratings for hiking trails. So I wouldn't doubt that skiing is the same.
Yeah.
So take it with a grain of salt.
Probably. So yeah, I started out from our campground again, and I went right past the visitor center, went down past that bridge, like you mentioned. Beautiful view, loved it. Kept going and followed this lake trail. And the first part of it, I felt was like fairly easy. There were some hills going up and some hills going down, and I could handle those just fine.
Well, you start out kind of going through the edge of the campground along that beach area, right?
Yep.
Because off to the left there, when you're heading that way, was like the Lumbee campground. We've never actually, no, we went into Lumbee campground the last time, but it's usually closed off at the times of the year we go.
Yeah. So the back half or the last third of it or so, I think is really where it gets more difficult. Now, as a beginner, I would say, wow, those were really challenging hills. So now I have a feel for what moderate means. You end up with some really significant inclines you have to go up, and I didn't really know how to do it well. I did watch some folks ahead of me because I did get past some folks ahead of me doing it, and I was struggling to try to copy their technique. And
that's that, like, I don't know what you call it, like reverse snow plowing, V-walk, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a term for it.
probably, but it's awkward.
Let's say V-walk. It looks like it would be awkward because your blades, like, I mean, your skis. Sorry.
Yeah, you have to step rather high so the back of your ski doesn't, get caught up on your other ski, and so you're kind of going this weird big step awkward thing. But I managed
Do you
to
have to do the peacemaker dance? Did you do the peacemaker dance? Please tell me you did the peacemaker dance.
So that you're talking about the series with John Cena, where in the introduction he does this the whole cast does this really weird dance that's just amusing.
I love that show. I have to bring it back. Anyway.
So then the challenging part as a newbie is the downhill part. So I spent the entire downhill sections snow plowing, trying to just control my speed.
How do you snow plow on those?
Very, very carefully.
But were you not in the trails, or were you snow plowing in the trails?
No, so what happens is on the uphill and downhill, the steep sections, they don't have the ruts there anymore.
That sounds horrible.
Well, you have to, because you can't be stuck in ruts. Otherwise, you can't control, right? So I'm very carefully
So you're downhill skiing.
Yeah, definitely. And the difficult part for me is trying to keep my tips from crossing, because once you do, you will fall over, as I found out.
And what did you do, Porter?
I did get footage of me falling over one of the times. It's point of view footage, because I was trying to photograph the trail and I wasn't paying enough attention to my ski tips, and I totally biffed it, and I injured my thumb. So.
And what was the injury called, Porter?
Skier's thumb.
So I guess that means you're officially a skier.
Apparently. So as we talk about this, I'm actually in a thumb brace right now, and it's not all that bad. It's just
no, but we basically took ourselves between my Achilles and your thumb. We're done for the season, which kind of sucks, because like our last park was Kilbaird. I was saying like, well, we'll take this season and maybe next season and get better at skiing.
Yeah.
And then go back like the season. We're done for the year.
Yeah. So I was happy. The first time I fell, I looked around and nobody saw me. I'm like, all right, good. I'm clear.
Would you at least stick the landing if someone did see you?
There's no good way to stick the landing.
No, but I'm saying stand up and curtsy or something.
I don't know. It was awkward to even get up in those skis. So I go further down, and I did end up biffing again. That time I kind of hurt my elbow, but not a big deal.
Oh, God. How's your elbow?
It's all right.
Your elbow. Okay.
Maybe a little bruised. It's fine. So again, as a newbie trying this intermediate, I was trying to be cautious, but I did fall twice and injure myself. So just be forewarned that, that's a good segue actually to the visitor center has this like training ground. They had they had little like 5-year-olds skiing around this little like course. They had cones out.
Oh, that's probably the bunny thing.
Could be. And they've got this really small hill. And last year we were there, we saw like a school team.
Class, yeah.
They were like practicing. They'd go up the hill and come back down and just kind of getting the groove. So that would have been a good idea for me.
Well, maybe we'll look into that next time.
I'm
sure anyone that's listening to this and knows what they're talking about is like, you guys are idiots.
Yeah. A few minutes of YouTube might have been a good idea for me too, but that's
I know,
all
right? Instruction manuals.
Learn by doing. I face planted and I learned. There we go.
Your thumb learned.
Yeah.
Anyway, I skipped over the snow. So the snowshoeing we always cover, except for it really is the same as the hiking trail in this case. There's 8 kilometers of snowshoeing trails all told. But aside from the Stubbs Falls one, there's actually the Mayflower Lake Trail, which I don't know that was somewhere where you're supposed to walk, but it's a snowshoeing trail that's 2 kilometers and moderate. Someone, who was I talking to? Maybe it was the guy that was telling me about the disability stuff. Someone had commented that it's like pretty hardcore.
Okay.
I think it might have been him. And the skate ski trail, I think that was Homesteaders. Apparently that's like super difficult too.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the subject of skating, there is the ice skating trail. So this was the whole reason we got into camping at Arrowhead in the first place, because my friend that had held out while we were there in the fall was like, oh, did you know? And so we obsessively watched the Ontario Park Snow Report to see when this trail would come in. And this was last year when like winter was not really a thing. But they did manage to get enough winter to come up with the weirdest ice I have ever seen in my entire life. Now, I am from Winnipeg. I have skated on the Red River. I have skated at the Forks. I have skated in every kind of rink you can imagine. I have competed in like Canada and the US in different areas, in like little small town rinks and outside and whatever. I have seen every kind of ice there is. I have never seen ice like that trail was that day. That was terrifying. Now, for reference here, I use actual figure skates, like not the kind you get at Canadian Tire and whatnot, but I use figure skates because I am an ice princess, and my ankles, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use Canadian Tire skates. So, anyways, figure skates are rockered in such a way that you've only got like an inch and a half, maybe, of blade touching the ice at any time. So when you're standing on like an inch or inch and a half of blade, you feel every bump. Like you feel every bump, and this ice was like thin layers of stacked ice with air in between somehow, because it wasn't water. It's not like it was partially frozen, but it was like skating on baklava.
There were definitely sections like that.
Oh man, that was terrifying. I like walked part of it because I was so scared.
There was one spot in particular I remember. It kind of went up a slight hill, and there were a lot. It seemed like they had let people skate on it when it was slushy.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And then it refroze, and that was really scary.
Skating on slushy ice is terrible. But the weird thing with the baklava ice is you'd skate and you'd do this, like it was cracking beneath, like literally if you had layers of baked phyllo dough and you skated on them, because apparently that's going to be a thing in this analogy. But you know how the layers would crack under you as you put your weight on it? That's how it was. It's like you were still going forward, but you could feel individual layers cracking as you went over, and it was so weird.
Delicious.
I'm apparently it's not the same always, because one of my friends from adult skating here in Hamilton, I told her about the baklava ice, and she said that she'd been there the year before, and that it was nothing short of magical and absolutely nothing like what I had experienced. So we're going to chalk that up to weird weather last year. Because like I said, it was like I think they were open like a week or something that time, or a few days, and then it got too warm again. So I'm sure all the heating and cooling of ice maintenance and whatever probably contributed to this baklava ice. But that was bizarre.
Yeah, they did a good job clearing and maintaining.
Yeah, they put the effort into the clearing and maintaining. But I think sometimes you can't fight Mother Nature, and I think that might have ruined me for outdoor skating. I think I've decided I am an indoor ice princess now.
Yeah, they've got this big tractor with this giant sweeper attachment on it, and
it looked like it belonged in a car wash or something.
China,
Anyway. Enough about that. They do this fire and ice nights thing that we haven't been to because they're only on Friday and Saturday nights, where they light it up with torches, and it's apparently really hard to get into it because it's a limited amount of parking and whatnot. You have to book your stuff ahead of time and whatnot. Super cute area for getting your skates on. There's like benches and fire pits and like little cubby holes for your stuff and everything. Like they put the thought into making this a really nice area. I feel bad that I bash on it so much, but like that ice was unique, man.
Yeah,
that was unique.
The fire and ice sounds really fun because even on the pathway to get to the skating rink, they had little tiki torches.
Yeah.
They weren't lit during our stay, but they were prepared for them.
Yeah,
that looked really fun.
Yeah, I think that would be. I'm glad that we didn't try doing that our first time out there with the baklava ice, though.
Yeah,
because I can't imagine skating over baklava ice
in the dark.
But just oh my god, that would be like a horror movie. Something. Anyway, I'm ranting. Anyway, so ice fishing is a weird one. So I'd seen some kind of reference to ice fishing, but there was no mention of it on the website, or there was a mention at some point or something. There was something where it's like, well, can you or can't you? So I Googled ice fishing in Arrowhead Provincial Park, and on the Ontario government page, there's Arrowhead Provincial Park Management Plan, and that details that you can ice fish, and it says you can ice fish on both lakes during rainbow and brook trout fishing season. Doesn't detail when those fishing seasons are. I don't know anything about fishing seasons in the winter either, so who knows. But anyway, that said, the park doesn't necessarily want you ice fishing.
Right.
And the Arrowhead Lake doesn't even seem like it would be a good place to go ice fishing unless you entered from like the far end of it somehow. Because anywhere near the visitor center or the parking or whatever is near the mouth of the river that goes out to Stubbs Falls and doesn't freeze.
Right.
That doesn't sound very safe, for one. But yeah, so you had talked to them about the ice fishing thing.
Yeah, it sounded like they didn't want to say you couldn't do it, but they also didn't want to sponsor it. They gave me some good advice about, hey, this probably isn't frozen, just like you said, there's flowing water there. And if you want to go out, go over here. We saw people out there.
Yeah, Mayflower. Was it Mayflower Lake?
Mayflower Lake, yep. She said that's probably your better bet, but it might not be very thick this time of year. So it sounded like they're willing to give you advice, but you are on your own to do this.
I mean, totally fair. Because honestly, ice fishing people, I have seen some dumb moves made. And I would not want to be a park employee thinking, don't be an idiot. Because that's what I'd be. I'd be like, don't be an idiot.
Right.
And like, okay, so they don't allow fishing huts or fires out on the ice. I saw a tent out there. And I thought I saw what looked like a fire pit dragged out there, which does not seem smart, especially if they're already saying that it's not.
Yeah,
I
have no words for the concept of bringing a fire out there. So
I have some, but you're already bleeping a few words out for me this video. So
stay safe, check the ice, make sure it's safe. Talk to the staff because they obviously know the area. If something is unsafe, they might know about it and they might tell you to stay away from it. That's my advice.
Yeah, but overall, I'd say just because you can doesn't mean you should. So if the park doesn't necessarily want you ice fishing there, maybe don't. But I figured I'd mention it because there's that weird today it's called for in the management plan, but they're not ever. I don't know. Something to discuss. The Discovery program, that's just limited to the summer months. They don't have any program there in the winter.
Right.
Niantic games.
There's a few portals around, not a lot. So like if you want to keep up your hacking streaks or whatever it is, you can kind of keep up. If there's an event, you're probably going to want to go into town because there's
Huntsville's great for it. Like I know we've been camping at Arrowhead during Pokemon Go events in the past. And we'll just take a couple hours out and head to Huntsville, and there's a few parks down there that have a huge amount of portals and Pokestops and gyms in a small area. Overall, though, I think your best bet is to go to the visitor center. There is one stop at Big Bend Lookout. Is it Big Bend? I always forget the name. Big Bend Lookout. But we were in the campsite closest to it, and we could not reach it from our campsite. So one way or the other, you're getting out of your campground to do whatever. There were spawns on the ground, but I mean, if you're going to spin something, you got to get out of the park. Not the park, the campsite.
Yep.
So, final thoughts.
I love Arrowhead. Now that I'm getting more into skiing, and at this point I've got about 20 kilometers under my belt, I'm loving the variety of the trails, how well groomed they are. Now I've been on some trails that are, not so groomed, mediocre groomed, and then excellent groomed. And I can
the ones that are marked as being groomed and like haven't seen a groomer in a year.
Right. Yeah. So I can definitely see the advantage in going to a well-groomed trail. It's worth going out of your way for it. So this is a great destination if you want to go skiing. Like
super beginner friendly too.
It really is. And so I definitely recommend it if you want to get into skiing or are into skiing. But like you said, there's tons of activities. There's the skating. There is hiking available and snowshoeing, and I really enjoyed all the activities available.
Arrowhead is interesting because I think it might actually be better as a winter campground. Not the campground. See, the campground throws me off. As a destination, I think I like it better in the winter than in spring, summer, fall. Right?
I'll agree with you.
The camping.
I wish they had more camping sections open, and I wish they had their poop loop open.
I think if it weren't for the lack of campsites, the poop loop situation, I think it might be my number one winter camping spot.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like that ends up going to McGregor kind of by default because it has everything and it has a dump station.
Right.
And it has a bunch of sites. But if all other things were equal, if McGregor and Arrowhead and Mew Lake all had dump stations.
Yeah.
And camping, I'd say it would be Mew Lake and McGregor is like 1-2. Like I don't even know which I'd rate that. But Arrowhead would be way up. It is still way up there for me, honestly. And the whole thing with their inclusivity and talking to their staff, and the thing with that park with Arrowhead is that it's so thoughtfully laid out. Everything about the winter camping, and it's like maybe people wouldn't notice this if they weren't doing reviews and taking notes on like what the signage is like and blah blah blah. But when you do a bunch of winter camping reviews and you have to complain about the accessibility and the signage is crap and the maps are crappy black and white photocopies of a color coded map or whatever, and then you go to Arrowhead, and Arrowhead's got winter specific signage and amazing mapping and the trails are super well groomed and the staff is like excited and proud about accessibility and stuff. Like it all contributes to it being an amazing experience,
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat what I said earlier and say it feels like a resort. It really does. That the level
to
that they
be
go
fair, I have no idea what a resort would feel like. I've never been to a ski resort.
I've never been to a ski resort, but we've been to destination
timeshare
kind of thing. But we've been to Disney too, and seeing how they kind of really push their clientele. They have a great experience. That's how I feel Arrowhead is taking things.
Are you seriously comparing Arrowhead to Disney in a favorable sense?
Arrowhead's better than Disney.
That's what I was going to say. You're like, oh, it feels like a resort. We've been to Disney. It's like, that does not feel anything like.
No, but the level of effort that they put in to really give you a good experience.
Yeah, I mean, on that sense, though, in terms of the resort, I don't know if all resorts are like Disney or whatnot, but like, I feel like Disney was very commercial and everything felt like that's at a cost and this is a premium and da. And Arrowhead just feels like a really welcoming place to be. Like you go there and it just feels like everything's just welcoming.
Yeah, you can just hang out.
Yeah, well, and they set it up so that you can hang out. That whole thing in front of the visitor center is beautiful. And like I said, I don't see that in any of the other camps. I mean, I'm like there is camping culture where you'll talk to your neighbors or whatever. But like this is the first one where I've seen where they have that gathering spot and people gather and there's the fire and it's you know what I mean? And it's not really so much our thing, because we are antisocial nerds. Not fans of people usually. But it's nice to see. I like that really for them. I like that for them, So I have not a whole lot bad to say about it. It's like if they had the dump station and, more campsites, we would be there a whole lot more.
I agree.
So, yeah. Obviously, we recommend it. Just don't book on the times we want to book because obviously you have, a choice not.
Yeah. And don't fall on the trail and hurt your thumb.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, don't do that. And if you're going to do it, get it on video and let us see.
I'll play the video again here.
Oh, God. Okay. Anyway. So there's our TLDR as always. If you can handle our nonsense, be sure to subscribe to our videos. Check out the blog because we've got way more photos and nonsense up there.
Yeah, this whole thing, everything we've talked about here is on our blog written as well, which is why this is the TLDR, the audio version of it. So
frankly, it would probably take you longer to listen to this than read our blog entry, but
we're a lot of fun.
Are we?
I think so.
Are we more fun when we are tired? Maybe.
I
see when I started and I gave that forewarning, I thought it was going to be basically like, okay, so the ski trail is like blah, blah. And instead it's like, whatever. Let's just carry on. Anyway, we're carrying on now. And this is probably going to be a 2-hour long review. But anyway, yes, like, subscribe.
Definitely.
See you on the next one.
TLDR.